Hello everyone, my name's Jeff Uhrig, and I think I just made the biggest mistake of my life. I bought a 1929 Marmon. I'm going to bring you along as I try to restore it, and hopefully we'll learn some history and have some fun. Let's get started. Hello everyone, welcome back. It's been some time since I posted a video. I've had some personal issues to take care of and have had some problems with the Marmon. As you can see, something's changed dramatically. The back half and the front half are no longer connected together. That's because, let me show you what happened. I was working on the back half, trying to do a template back in here to make up a new piece of metal to go in there. And this piece of metal here was attached to the wood framing of the cab. It had a clamp and some wood screws. Well, the wood split and I didn't know about it, and I took off the clamp so I could get in and out easier, and this piece broke off of the front piece. So I've gone and separated the back half of the car, left that on the cart, and then over here we've got the front half of the car, and I've started sanding and working on that. Hopefully I'll get that all, the rust removed and repainted here pretty soon. And let's take a look at the front half of the cab here. I've been working on this. I've pulled out the dashboard, all the trim, pretty much everything that was attached to here has been removed. But what I've been spending a lot of time on is the wood at the top here. There's this one piece here, this is where the headliner gets stapled on. Here's where the roof gets stapled on. And then the actual roof membrane gets attached back here. So this piece here, I've drilled out the screws, but as you can see on this side, it's pretty much gone, rotted out. So I'll need to replace this piece. And then there's this little piece that's in here. Now I don't know if this is supposed to be glued to the other piece or not. There were no screws between it. But if I take this one out, it's pretty much all rotted away. And so I'm going to work on replacing this one. So what I've done is I created a template that fits in here. So that pretty much matches up with the top piece here. The catch I'm running into is I don't know what's supposed to be flat and what's supposed to be curved. This is where the window attaches, so I'm assuming that's flat there. But then this is a curved piece here. So it looks fairly close to flat, but it drops off about 1/4 inch on each end. And so the struggle I had, and I did basically 3 templates, is to try to figure out what the contour is of this piece in here. So this is what I came up with after working on this for quite a bit for a template. So we've got 2 flat sides, which would be this side and this vertical side here, and then this slopes out and then this slopes down. So it was a matter of trying to fit this so that it would fit in here fairly tight, and then that'll give me a basis to do the milling and planing and sawing or whatever I have to do to make that piece. So my plan is to take a piece and mill it so it's flat here and a 90-degree here, then a table saw to cut this angle and a table saw to cut this angle, and then once we get that all squared up, I have to drop the 2 ends by 1/4 inch, so then I can use my bigger template here to trace that out and saw the top, so I get that saw and sand the top to fit there, and then I'll get a block that'll fit in there tightly, and then I'll have to do the same thing for the next piece. Now the catch on the next piece, I'm not sure exactly how this got put together, because we had some wood screws that were threaded in the bottom of this angle here, but not through this piece. So this piece was added after this. So what I think the way they built it is this angle ended up bolted to this front piece of wood, and then they welded it to this one here. So my plan is to build the front piece up there, get it bolted on, cut the welds, then I could screw it in from the bottom and then weld it back in. Sounds simple. So now moving down on the cab, there's two pieces of metal here, and then there's a wood insert in here. And I think that's mainly to attach the finish coatings or some trim or something like that. There's one piece up here, and then there's another piece that runs down here all the way down to the bottom. Now that top piece, I think I'm going to try to reuse it. Here's the piece from the other side, and it's got all kinds of angles. It tapers this way from one end to the other. It's square on this way. It's got the end of it, it's kind of like a wedge shape. You know, you can see it really good there. And then these cuts are at an angle. So this is going to be really hard to make, and actually it's still in pretty good shape. So I'm just going to try some sealer on it and see if we can reuse that piece. And the bottom piece is probably even more complicated looking. We could probably make this one, it's pretty much square. To give you an example of what's going on here, is it's notched out so that you can have, I guess I got to show it on this side here. So this little hole here, that's where the door stop goes, and then below it is a door hinge. And then up at the top here, this notch is to go around this metal bracing here. And then the top piece up here, that's where the door hinge is again. So that gets notched out for that to fit. And then of course the interior gets stapled on this face of it. Hopefully you can see this. It's not too dark. Going back into the cab, there's a metal plate here on the bottom. This is what gets attached to the wood. So it's 8 wood screws, and then the bolt going down to the frame. This is welded to a bar that goes all the way up top of the window. And so that sort of braces that. And then over here you can see the edge of the metal, and this is the part that gets folded under. I've bent this open more, but this gets folded under and then nailed to the bottom of the wood frame. And then there's also another brace that goes in here. So your floor ends up mounted like right in here. Okay, I tipped the whole cab over here so it's a little easier to see what's going on underneath. The whole cab's pretty light. It's maybe 50 pounds, so I can lift it up and move it around a little bit. But we have these two vents, and what happened is they were frozen solid. Both were rusted. The right one actually was broken off, the handle, so I don't have a handle for that. I'll have to fabricate one. But I used some heat, got these loosened up, so now when they get reassembled, both vents should be working fine. This one's still a little stiff, but it's been frozen for many, many years. And then the one thing that's kind of interesting is, if you can see it down here, right here, trying to get so you get a halfway decent picture here. It looks like a hose clamp, and I thought it was just a hose. That's a drain line for the vents, so if you get water in it, it'll drain out of the car. However, I thought it was just a hose clamp holding it on, and it's actually a piece of metal that's welded to the car. That's the hose clamp. So those, I guess I got to try to salvage those and reuse them. I just want to show you one issue that I've run into, especially around this front window is where I found it so far, is I've got this black finish that's been added on, and that was the window frame, and it looks like the top here. Here I've been working on it. Over here, I've already tried all my sanding on here, and it just won't come off. But I've used lacquer thinner and a scuff pad, and that seems to take it off. So I'm basically doing like a wet sanding here. with a scuff pad and lacquer thinner to break it down and get it to come loose. And then I can wipe most of it off. And now I'm down to like it looks like the original primer. So once I get it moved down, removed down to this point and the black stuff's pretty much gone, then a little fluff action takes it right down to bare metal quickly. So this is a look of what the frame actually looks like once it's removed from the car. Up at the front here is where the front, I'll call it the front cab, the A-pillar bolts on. So it's held on to 8 wood screws and 1 bolt down to the frame here. And as you can see, this is coming apart. This was basically, the frame is built up of 4 pieces of wood that are laminated together. You got the one seam here separating this side from this side, plus it's separated top to bottom. As you come back here, here's where the B pillar goes for the doors. And then back here, again, this is where the back of the car is bolted on. And you have some wood screws and then a bolt through to hold on the metal portion. Over on the other side here, this is what broke the car apart. Is I had this bolt removed right here that hold it, because it's not on the frame anymore, and so there were just a couple of wood screws through here to hold the metal on, and a clamp. And I took the clamp off and then climbed on it, and then this piece went one way and the bottom went the other way. So I did add these braces in here before I took it apart, so that I got pins that'll line up with the holes that bolt to the frame. Take those off. And I've already broken this apart, just so you can see. I'll take it apart here. This is how this is put together. This gets inserted and then they got 2 screws that hold it in. It may have been glued at the one time, I'm assuming. So these 2 come apart, hopefully. And then if we look at just this one piece, you can see there's a lot going on here. The only spots that seem to be straight are like right in here. And then up at the front of it here, it's knocked down here so that the floorboards can sit in here. And of course, this we looked at before being notched in, and that's actually, I don't know if you can see this, it steps down and steps down again, then back up and up. Of course, we got the 2 mortises here to hold the cross braces in. And again, this is notched down here so that the floor will fit in here, and then the B pillar. And then on the outside here, this piece is basically the outside of the car, and that's not square, that's tapered down on an angle, so because the side of the car comes down like this. And then this is notched around the wheel well, and it's also notched this way to follow the contour of the frame. And then on the back side here, we've got this cut out because the metal of the car folds over and gets nailed to this on the outside. And then we've got some cuts in like this, which is where there's some rivets on the frame. And I think it's the same thing with these guys here. These are also rivet clearances. And then up at the front, there's some countersunk bolts in here. So this is turning out to be a pretty complicated piece to make. So what I've done is I've made a template of the piece. It's just out of plywood and basically marked where everything's going on here. So this is basically a template so I can cut out a piece of wood this big to make it work. laying it out. And so that's the left side, and this is the right side because it's a mirrored image. And this is the bottom of the left side shown on here. And this way I can duplicate both sides and get the curvature. But once I cut it out, like this side being tapered, I'm going to have to cut it out and then probably sand it at an angle to get that to work. So what I've done here is I've used my templates to rough out some boards, a total of 4 of them, 2 for each side, and then drilled holes for where the frame bolts go. Use those to align the 2 pieces. I've used some marine grade glue between them, and every single clamp I own, including welding clamps, to clamp the whole assembly together. And this is going to have to set up for like a week before it's ready to plane down to its final thickness, and then I can start doing all the special cuts on it. So this is going to take some time. It probably won't be finished until the beginning of February. I've got one already glued up. This is the second one. And I wish you could feel the weight of this. This bolt wood weighs over twice as much as the original stuff. So I'm assuming it's just that the original stuff has rotted out internally a little bit and lost a lot of wood, so it's quite a bit lighter. Okay, for those of you who have been saying, why don't you finish something? I've got a special treat for you today. I've primed the front part of the cab. Here we go. This is not finished. This is just a primer sealer to seal out all the metal work that I've been doing on here, all the sanding and grinding. It looks halfway decent. It's still going to need more work to finish it off, but at least it's one color.